Good afternoon, everybody. Today is March 27th. Doing a monthly Gartley group meeting. And today, I want to get into looking at the short-term time frames we've been referencing. We've done a lot of kind of outlining in the sessions. So now what we want to do is really look at lives, break it down, look at live tick charts. Let's look at some short-term trade opportunities and even look at how to kind of position these opportunities on the dome. It's the depth of market. We're going to focus on NASDAQ 100 and S&P 500 E-minis in this session alone. I think we'll do Forex in a separate session. I think there's a lot of kind of qualifications for day trading that definitely need to be mentioned. I think for focusing on NASDAQ and S&P, they're both the same, pretty much same vehicles. The Dow is as well, but not nearly. I don't find it as liquid as S&P or NASDAQ. The way the patterns line up, I think, are even better. And when we're talking tick charts, we got a lot of movement where we're going to see multiple formations no matter what. So a couple of things right now. Obviously today, big down day already. And the thing that I do want to kind of flash up before I begin is one more disclaimer. If I'm going to do this and kind of move ahead on doing this live, I'm going to bring all the disclaimers in the world. So I'm going to reference, draw everyone's attention, go to the CFTC website, and just another reference and disclaimer about commodity trading systems. That's effectively what this is all about, what we'll be doing here. Everything that we're doing is off of a demo account, and I want to make that clear that there are no trading claims being made. It's all hypothetical trading, and it's really something that is here in the United States, that kind of regulation I have to be clear about. That's why I will stay on the demo as we do this first few sessions, and then moving over to kind of a regulated independent third-party monitoring service. We'll do live trading with real money, but to get it started right now, I need to put all the disclaimers in the world out there, and go to cftc.gov and check that out. That's all I want to say about that. Now let's look at what we've got currently, because we're looking at a 5-minute turnaround. That's why I was highlighting all of this down here. This is S&P 500 on a 5-minute, and really for any, I think the best way to kind of start this as well is just how would I open my chart? How would I approach at any point would I start trading? What am I looking at? And I come in and we do this in the live sessions. Here we are, it's 12 noon. Okay, what do we have? And let's say we're starting our trading session today. And coming into here, I would size up effectively what is happening, say, on a 5-minute chart. And we see a pretty steep sell-off after a type 2 crab. But we also see that that has just triggered, just triggered the HSI signal. So it looks like that early morning sell-off into what is typically what we have seen time and time again is kind of a midday turnaround, a midday pattern, opposing harmonic setup around midday. So, and we've seen that a number of times, discussed that. Here we are right in front of it. What do we have in here? Do we have any kind of pattern formation, anything down in this area that might suggest taking action down here? Right now, so far, no. And in fact, on one of my kind of slowest time frame I like to look at is a 233 tick. We have a pretty impulsive bearish shark happening right now. And so let's just give this a little bit of time. Also, if I'm going to look at the 5-minute, I'll look at that 233 just to know where I am. Let's say I want to respect that 5-minute bullish signal, oversold signal. That's an early signal. And I'll start looking, but I'll compare that also with a super small time frame like this tick chart, and tell me where we are on the tick time frame, because I know that that 5-minute just triggered. Here is the first bullish short-term tick signal within that 5-minute where we have it. So that's a way to break down those two time frames. I know I've talked a lot about the various time frames, primary time frame, proximate, or the short-term time frame. I think the key really is just to be comparing a primary time frame. If that's intraday, we're going to pretty much be looking at the 5-minute basis and see where we are. How far have we moved on that 5-minute level? And that's something I've reiterated quite a bit in the sessions. And then even if you haven't taken a peek, we still want to also be aware of, say, where the 60-minute time frame is. Because this is, here we are right now, actually at a full 886 retest. Not sure why that's not a bat pattern generating, but and just if not aware of where we are relative to, say, that 60-minute time frame, that sure is going to help. And despite that large drop so far, we're stabilizing right at a 60-minute 886. So that I start to build my numbers from there. That's 94.50. A couple of those other numbers, those 5-minute numbers, a little bit lower. The 5-minute HSI, also down in this area that just triggered at around 93. So that's such a way I would start the day. And I think this, hopefully what I'm trying to do is answer a lot of questions before I even begin, because I think there's a lot of in-betweens that people are curious about, want to know, even on how to set it up. So really quick, let me flash one other thing. Something that I recommend. It really is helpful in terms of making your process efficient. I have shown this before, but I've got a various screens here set up: the 60-minute, the 233 tick, the 5-minute, the 1-minute. So if I'm a day trader, I can go in here, just click bars, see what the last pattern is. Here is ES forming a bat pattern on the June contract. On that's a 1-minute basis. So let's look at that really quick. Instead of flipping through a whole bunch of charts and trying to just scan for things, look at what that pops up. Here we have a deep crab. Let me see the bat. I know why that's not. Let me adjust my setting here. I turned that off. There you go. Go back to that. Here on the 1-minute, and that 1 second. ESM9, 1 minute. Let me open a different chart here. Not sure why that's not coming up. Let me look at 1 second. Let me pull up that 1-minute chart here, or the 233 chart, showing the potential, showing a potential bat pattern there. Let me take a look. Okay, I see it. I don't know why it's not illustrating. Hold on 1 second. What the heck's going on there? Here it is. I don't know why it's not popping up. Here it is on another chart. Bring this over. Sorry, guys. Got to check that. All right, so right now, coming immediately, here's a bat pattern. This is NASDAQ, 7309. That's something I would look at. Here's the first kind of short-term pattern within the trend, day's trend. But remember, we're also got a 5-minute kind of sitting here stabilizing after this long sell-off. So let's just compare that with the 5-minute. We looked at the S&P 500. Both had similar crab patterns this morning, crab retests. In terms of NASDAQ on the 5-minute, look at HSI has yet to come out. So we know we're still early. And that's why it's critical to just kind of cross-reference that 5-minute time frame with your a 1 minute or even that tick chart where that needs to come out. We see good signs both in RSI and amplified. This is that triple confirmation on a 5 minute. That tells us we're in a pretty good ballpark area down in the 72, say 80 area, right where these where these come out. After a pretty stiff decline, I see NASDAQ was down almost 100 till the low. Now I just need to see some kind of short-term pattern that would trigger me in here for reaction. Right now we're flashing that bearish bat pattern, and this could set up pretty nice short-term day trading opportunity. I'll keep it right on here, and we'll take a look at this one. Let's see if this sets up for something like a type 1. And again, I'm not our price parameters, our goals here are very short-term, scalp oriented. I want to be clear about that. Also, we're going to miss some patterns, and we're only going with clear confirmation as well. So it's really critical to be aware of kind of how we're processing this. Certain things might develop. Sure, we might be looking at this come off that low and say, well, if we're playing it up to a crab pattern or looking for that completion of the bat, why don't we just buy right now and play it up to there? I mean, there's other setups that we will get to that point where, yeah, we will go from pattern to pattern. Sorry about that. But this is where we want to see, just kind of focus on one setup. Now, here's something also interesting on a 233 tick. That just switched, the auto algorithms just switched from bat to crab. And I know that that does happen in terms of, depending on how the scanner is processing the data, do we favor the crab or do we favor the bat pattern? Because the crab is that was just being populated, is generating off of that prior high. That just tells us, hey, in this area, we want to be looking up at this resistance level, and again, looking for confirmation up there as well. And so we're still kind of in between here. For NASDAQ, this isn't a heck of a lot. You know, after moving down 100 today, let's go back to S&P. All right, there's that bearish. Here's a bearish shark on the S&P, and sorry, I got distracted trying to go through a few things introductory. We did look at. I popped this when we started. This still has an HSI check back. Again, this is really short term. Technically, the shark really at the 113 and the terminal bar, all right here. And again, looking basically just right against the prior initial starting point. But no check back on the HSI, and that's something else that I really want to see on these short term setups. It came close. But let's keep an eye on this, because what are we favoring? What are we looking for? We still know that we're looking for type 1 and it come back for a type 2. So we know even if on this one, and I would prefer the NASDAQ because I think it's got more room to run. But this should be a very aggressive scalp here, but a good one with today's kind of action that, you know, 4.16, 17 ticks. Not bad parameters in terms of what we need to risk, but still want to trigger off of stuff like HSI the same way we do 5 minute, 60 minute. Let me pull up the other screen, pull up the other chart. Go and run NASDAQ and S&P side by side. And here's a 1 minute deep crab on S&P. Okay, and this is something where kind of fits in with the looking for these deep crabs down at the stop loss. But this one's going a little bit further than we'd like to see. The key with this is looking down at that 1902 number. And let me pop that up. This is actually a really good structure for today's sell-off so far. And even if we were tried this, we've seen a few of these deep crab patterns on 1 minute and even some on the 5 minute that go beyond it. But then we get these HSI triggers that are down here a little bit beyond the stop loss. That's a little further than I really like to see. But admittedly, we've had a couple of these that, especially on the initial test, where they worked out quite well. Now, if I'm looking at that, is that a possible support area down here? 27.99.75, under 2,800 for the day. Already traded as low as 92. Still, it's a big movement, but that's where then the tick chart helps me to kind of break down and really look. Give me a trigger inside there. If that was a bullish setup, should have some kind of a pattern, bullish HSI. But actually, look, we've got two bearish patterns up here, a little short-term resistance at, say, 2802. So nothing yet in terms of the bullish side that I would want to see. One other signal that I'd like to see on the real short-term 233 tick chart, it kind of absolute tests, and one of them is with amplified RSI, where if I see a complex structure, yes, going to the 50 is great, but I really want to be favoring these complete 30 tests. So if we're dealing with two short-term patterns, despite the 5-minute bullish signal, that just registered. I'd love to see something like this. Maybe this comes down in a type 1. And then if this is the stabilization area for the day, and we're going to get some kind of afternoon bounce, we'll look for it with amplified trigger on the 233 tick. Also with HSI to come down and give us something as well at one of the targets. Remember, still, that's a type 1 trade. We still treat that down here to 96 to the 92 area, looking for an HSI signal. The other thing that is, I think, helpful here is look at the last HSI test. What's that got up here? You know, sometimes when I come into the day fresh and I want to see, you know, some immediate direction, I'll go to a 1 minute or 233 and just look at, okay, what was the last RSI test, last triple confirmation? Do I want to be buying in the face of that? No, not yet. And that's those are some of the things of where to draw your eyeballs to really kind of pay attention on looking for immediate clues. Let's go, let me pop up the NASDAQ screen. So guys, I imagine we'll go like another, 20 minutes or so. Let's see if we can get something here. Here's NQ, there's a bat. Still looking for that. A little bit higher up at still 03, 09. And what about the 5 minute? Did the 5 minute get out on these after that long drop? Just did. And look at what, here it is. Here's the other kind of thing. I'd be looking at this really soon. This just registered into there. We're 30 seconds into that 5 minute bar. There's the first HSI trigger, and with the bullish confirmation across the board. That trigger bar and that trigger bar low right here. Let me bring this up. The low there is 94. Now let's look at the 233. Not the 133. Go to 233. On the HSI, just keep this in mind on that 5 minute level. Right down here, some kind of check back on the 5 minute. So now we've got a 5 minute registered. I want to see something really on the super short term. I know pretty much that next signal will kick off that larger move. And let me bring up side by side the other ES. One second, let me clean that on too. Okay, there's that bat pattern on ES 233. All right, I like this one. Here's a little short term HSIs there. Here's amplified. Now we start to look to the right because that red line stopped there. But look, HSI hasn't triggered yet. Right there. $886 is at 0216, so on the reflector you think it's 02 and a quarter. There it goes. All right, now I'm looking for just a little bit check back against that zone. That sets everything up. Everything you want to see. Could you have entered immediately on the 886? Yeah, but I'm waiting for HSI checkbacks exclusively with all the setups. Terminal bar, HSI checkback. Now this might come down, kiss the 382, and go back on the same type 1, type 2. That might even be a better setup here. Let's see. And again, if you were automatically want to trigger and scalp that at the 886, that's not my style. But I think you'll see this thing react right back off the target 1. Is that worth it? 02 to 98. I think that's really tight. And I think we know our larger confirmations come back like this. Okay, here we go. That's another thing of what you want to be assessing here. I think that something as short term as this can get you turned around pretty easily, where you're still thinking to capture that reaction when that one's already over. And what we're looking for is this check back into the zone for that retest. That's actually that type 1 already completed because it kissed the target 1 382. I mean, with a limit order, and that was really quick. That was good for, that did a full about 15 tick move, but based on what we look for, type 1, type 2, we know the larger move and retest of the other piece of what I'm looking for is the retest 02 and a quarter or just above there for the move back to target 2. Type 1 down, okay, that was successful still, but I'm looking for this secondary test, retest. We have an HSI trigger. And again, my expectation because of that retest is larger. We look for target 2 on that retest. Let me bring up NASDAQ really quick. Okay, there's NASDAQ. Just flip to the bat and crab. Both flashing bearish patterns on these super short-term time frames, but I'm more focused on the 5-minute. That has greater consequence. And the 5-minute, both of them triggered HSIs right there. NASDAQ, that low is at 94. No pattern on that though, but look at the, again, for those that just came in, a couple people did just pop in. Look at the, I'll go with 2-hour time frame, but I was showing 60-minute. Retesting that prior low, actually almost ready to take it out. Go to this, let me pop the 60-minute, that's better. Pretty severe on that drop here, but look at amplified. That actually started to pop up as we started today's session. So again, a big dump on the open this morning, but we're at that midday inflection point. For reaction, yeah. All right, here's the bat pattern on the 233. Let's just focus on this, and I think this is a good one. Let's see if we get we got HSI on the check back up here. It is a type 2. We do want to see HSI come up, give you a secondary test would be great, but we have amplified. That's that red line, look, to the right there. So you got 2 of 3. Would love to see triple confirmation here. You do have RSI here a little bit earlier, but that's not lining up with what we want to see right here in PRZ. Again, 886 is at, call it 02 and 0.25. Let me bring over the reflector, the dome. Okay, there's depth of market. Right now we're on the retest of the type 2, 233 tick. So it's going to be really fast, but I'm looking at this above, right where we are, 02 and a quarter is the 886, at or just above. And again, I'm already thinking 2 things. 1, target 2 at 95 3/4. Where are we going to execute relative to the stop? And where's the stop? Stop at 05 and 0.25? Or no, a little bit higher, because we're adjusting. If our 886 or terminal bar is at a quarter or 50, basically that's telling you risk about 12 ticks, slightly there above. So we're looking at 250, 3, adjust that to maybe 6. Just for the initial entry, and then we'll adjust the stop. Let me blow this up. Doing nothing yet, guys. I'm looking right up in here in between stop loss and on the type 2 here. Ideally, I want to get one more HSI trigger. It's like that. Two other things to note. Amplified still up. HSI still up. All right. But this is stalling out right here at the last check back bar at the 886. You can call that 0250. So I think minimum entry at 0250. Let me bring up NASDAQ as well. That did have that bad pattern too. Did that hit on the 5 minute? 1 minute? Yeah, busting through right now. Look at NASDAQ here, side by side. Both of these need one more. Look at, wait for on the NASDAQ here. You got a crab up at 17. You got the bat pattern, all that above 10. Look at the crab here at that 1618. That's at 1725. And also you got the bat pattern stop loss. Same kind of thing between the zone on that other bat pattern. This one too. This one you've got, I know that keeps flashing and that's a bugger, but it's pointing up a little bit higher. This little bat pattern here. That crab that it's generating on that NASDAQ, same type of deal between there. This one's a type 1 though. So this one will be pretty reactive. Again, this NASDAQ here, closer to the stop loss. Where's HSI? HSI hasn't triggered yet. Still in the zone, but this one really close to the stop, 73.19.50. That's the area when you're going to look. There you go. HSI just triggered. One second. There's ES. I'm going to bring up NQ and do both. NQ at that, tough to see, right there at 18. Oh, frick, moving really fast. There's HSI on the 233. This is really fast. There's the bat. There's our first HSI above the PRZ, but there you go. Now, this might be too fast for some of you guys. There's HSI right there. Triggers. Did it? No, it didn't check back right to the top yet. That's it at 18.25. Stay on that. NASDAQ might be in a better position even than S&P. There's S&P. Bring up NQ side by side. The NQ trigger is at, I think it's 17. Here's the completion of the VAB pattern. I'll bring up one other thing, the vertical zone line bar. I might not get that NASDAQ. I might be coming off right now. Here's the vertical zone line bar. And then look where HSI comes in. So again, that helps to see us versus trying to take it right at the 886. That's why we're waiting. Now we didn't get a check back on that. We didn't even check back on S&P. Both of those are right here. Yeah, there's, go NASDAQ now. Favor that NASDAQ right up at the stop loss around 19. Ah, shit, I moved that, excuse me. That's a trading term for oops. Again, guys, easy ways to look at the trigger bar on HSI. Just look at the high, that's at 18. This is the other part about, though, doing these sessions is kind of waiting through, and I don't like that. That's why I'm going to try to keep it quick, fast. Now we're just waiting for this thing to roll over. The one thing I'm looking for, especially up in here, is look at amplified. Need to get that under the 50 level. That's really going to help us get out of this zone. And as you're thinking in here for this check back, your entry, I'm now monitoring amplified to get that back down to the extreme. On both HSI as well, that's going to give me the kind of the follow through that I want to see. Here we go. I didn't get picked up on NASDAQ, but I did S&P. Okay, so we'll wrap up with S&P here. So there was the check back up at 04 with our minimum numbers around 250. And again, our objective on this, let me blow that up. We're shooting for target too. Bring this up here. One second. I'm sorry. It's a type 1 on the S&P. NASDAQ was a type 2. So we'll go to 98.25. And there's a check back. Here's our minimum terminal bar re-entry level. All good. Now we're going to ride that to target 1 off of that bat. 98.25. Also, again, the other thing we want to monitor as this is all happening, what's your progress here on amplified? Even RSI helps. There you go. That's under the 50. That gets you some a little more evidence of a breakdown. We want to see that continue. And then HSI. And HSI acceleration will come as it enters the zone, really. Again, this is super short term, folks. So we're going on almost 45 minutes now. I kind of want to wrap it up. I think that NASDAQ was actually worked out even better because that moved 10 off of that. And sometimes when you slow midday markets, those ticks are as important. What did the NASDAQ do, high to low, on that little reaction? $17.50 all the way down to 08. And here's an interesting situation in that on the 233, you got an HSI here. What does that mean? If I'm halfway through the management of this, I've got an HSI. I'm watching that. Does that correspond? Do you have any other oversold indicators that maybe say that was just a quick relief thrust? Possibly. That's something else to consider too when we're trying to work our way out of these zones here. Our objective still that on even NASDAQ, the 233 is down to 97. Let me take a quick look at that 5 minute, 1 minute, because we are also dealing with the potential check back situation for a larger midday stabilization on a next little pullback here. So that's the other piece that we started out with, that we came into today's session, market had sold off quite a bit, then registered some bullish signals, oversold across the board. And so any kind of reaction off this stuff, I'm looking for, against that 5 minute, a minimum check back, maybe to retest this a little bit lower for at least a larger bounce. That looks like it's overdone. It's pretty cooked for today. Coming back again, one more retest here. Yeah, we decided to get slow in the middle of the day here. But I think I showed you guys really what I wanted to present. Of how to handle it, what to look for. I think there's a lot more that we can do here. There's the check back here. We're looking at, here's the NASDAQ closer to the stop loss. And look, now you've got HSI about to trigger. Again, that goes to the point of, if we see that HSI, you do want to be defensive on that if it coming back into the zone. Now we're about to get another trigger. The thing about everything I'm showing you guys on the 233 tick or the 1 minute is that it's just happening a lot faster. So you're going to have to respond in the same regard, and maybe be scalping or scratching stuff out, but also keeping in mind, even more so with these day trade situations, that most patterns are going to give you two opportunities. So if it's a scratch like this, or NASDAQ moved 10 points off of that little trigger we were following as the back completed, it's something where then you break it down to almost a 1 bar trailing stop. I'm still looking for this larger down move. Take maybe a secondary shot. There's another HSI trigger. And again, as we started the session and talked about this specific pattern in the 233 NASDAQ, is a classic example of favoring the trade, between the stop and the zone, and really pinpointing in that area of HSI trigger. I can't be any clearer, and with the software auto-generating all of this stuff, even on these micro time frames, to this level, gives you that advantage of, I feel, of that positioning advantage. Where then, okay, if you get that immediate follow through, here was another retest where, okay, triggered 18. I actually got filled on that. On 2, there you go. I had a limit order up there on 2, and that's plus 5, 6. Okay, well, let's say I wanted to scalp that out, and let's just follow that really quick, and I'm super short term. All right, I want to take more my 4 or 5 points, whatever. Now it's 3 points. What are you going to do? Well, I'm certainly going to make sure I'm going to take profit out of this trade. I could even put in and pop in my stop loss. Pop in 1 or 2 trailing stops if I wanted to. There. If I'm still shooting for 97. One of the adjustments of where I want to put my stops is when we get the breakdown of the 50 levels on all our indicators. I'll pop in another stop loss, and both of these trades are working out, but just there and there, I come away. All right, 1, I just got stopped out on 1. Still short 1. S&P's probably a scratch on this, but let's see. And here we are. We're still in a type 1, so I'm being aggressive on that. And I took 1 of 2. And so, if you're even a beginner trader here, of being able to risk this, it's $20 a point. Now that's coming against me. I don't like it. All right, let's close it out. Let's just clear out. Didn't want that to become a loss here. And I picked up 5, 6 on the first one and 2 on the second. I wasn't as responsive as I'd like to be on this. The S&P one, don't really like that. It's not working out. Let me see if I can get out of that break even or a couple ticks. Lost a couple ticks on that one. I was a little early on that S&P. But that's the thing, and again, one of the important things to me to try to do this with you guys is to explain what the heck I'm doing at each stage. Okay, so I'm going to probably be slow to respond than I normally would be, but it's important to understand why we make these moves at various times. There's a real essence of perspective on this short-term day trading time frame, and I think one of the problems is that the day trading mystique is so hyped up that when you get into it and you don't have the skill set and the proper expectations, okay, these guys that are trying to hawk these systems and without real experience of what to know at each turn, what to be thinking, what to be looking at, you are going to be chasing your tail, and it's going to be a very frustrating experience. So what we're trying to do here is set those expectations, be realistic, understand that we're not going to get all of them. We're going to have losers. We're not going to get perfect entries, but we're going to be close. And we're going to always have the right expectation with how to handle the trade. I think that above anything else is the number one takeaway with how we apply the framework and how we apply the patterns. And so you guys saw a couple trades here. This NASDAQ one, got flushed out a little bit, but you've seen how that's bounced around. 2 10-point moves down first. 1, 2. We scalped some of that out. S&P still bouncing around, not doing much, but in that zone area. Okay, and this is all against that 233 tick time frame. Okay, but it's all about the positioning, and that's that's tantamount to everything else that we do. And close that out. Just close that. ES just lost 2 ticks, 3 ticks. Just really what I'm trying to do, guys, demonstration purposes, real time, to really tie it together. We'd spent a lot of sessions, a lot of live harmonic trading sessions where I show you guys the type 1, type 2, show all the folks of how those dynamics work out, of why we look at the reaction versus reversal. Now you're seeing it on a micro time frame where those quick split-second decisions have to become instilled through proper expectations. That's why, look, even on this, within the 1 hour or 50 so minutes we've been here to do all of this, okay, to try to find a perfect setup, not easy, but to find something that even is a reactive position. Here's NASDAQ. Again, something that reacted for 10 and we pulled 5, 6 out of it. Just as a day trade example, but all based on the same thing. Now it's breaking out, no problem. But still our positioning, especially type 1, type 2 positioning, all comes into play there. There still might be an ancillary shot here. Let's see what HSI is doing. See, HSI is back up into the zone here. And 73.19.50 to be that exact on the 233 tick with another HSI trigger would not be a bad shot. I mean, we've seen that in the last 30 minutes, 25 minutes, okay? You've had 2 of those reactions. We'd love to see better situations. And again, the 1 minute, the 5 minute patterns are absolutely our preferred intraday time frames. And again, you look at what happened this morning. The type 1, type 2 framework, like that. There's type 1, retest up, and that was really fast on the open. Type 2 all the way back down, and then almost a tertiary test. So the hope is that we bring the live sessions, show the 233 and the tick and the 1 minute ideas as they're happening, and then bring that in with 5 minute or 60 minute levels like we've reviewed in the live sessions. Between the two, okay, that's where you then really piece it all together. So I hope you guys, I hope you got a lot out of this. There's a lot more that I want to do with this, and especially do put some live money here, but it's got to be set up properly, and that's what I'm working on. But you guys have any questions, send me an email. Go slow with it, but I think you see the essence of the pattern completion HSI that I've been talking about over and over again, and how we can do that on these intraday time frames. So we'll do this again. I'm going to do this a bit more than once a month, but we'll catch it. We'll do it again next Gartley meeting. So guys, we'll be back tomorrow, Thursday at 9 a.m. for another live harmonic trading. And we'll even review some of the stuff we've talked about today. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow.